Okay, so where we stopped on our project, we have what I call a main character and a secondary character. Then I have another main character and another secondary character. So what we're going to do when they choose a player, it's going to choose the game they play. It doesn't necessarily have to be a hero and an enemy. It could just be we're going to talk about player one against character number two, and then we're going to player two and character number two. Now I've got a star that my first player is going to be tossing. I'll come up with something when I do the whole second player. My rocket here is just what I plan to use on my start page. So I'm going to pause right now and check everybody's project. All right. So what I'm going to review is how to add one of these characters because this one and these are from scratch. This one's not. So I'm going to review how to do that right now. So you'll have to. I've got another video in YouTube on my playlist on how to choose a sprite or to create your own sprite with the remove backdrop. So I've already got it with the backdrop has been removed, and I'm going to do this Hello Kitty is what I'm going to show you. So I'm going to come down here to where normally I would choose a sprite. If you come down here to choose a sprite and you don't get this pop-up bar, it only wants you to actually choose one of theirs. There's a little bit of a snag in the program. It's not a true bug. You're going to want to save now and refresh your whole page to get it to work. Sometimes the little things like that happen. You just need to save and then move on. But I'm going to come down here, hover over with my mouse where you normally choose a sprite, go all the way up to the little U with the up arrow. I'm going to click that. When I do, it's going to open up an option for me to grab from my downloads. For students, it's going to show you that same screen. You won't have photos like this. This is going straight to my photo folder, and it's because it's the last place I downloaded something to. Typically, it goes to the last place you downloaded to, which is your screen. It's going to show that your files and your downloads, and most likely it's going to be in your downloads. In just a minute, okay? All right. So these are some not backgrounds. I'm sorry. These are some characters that I wanted to turn into sprites. Let's see. I'm going to go with the alien since it kind of goes with my theme right now. I'm going to click on that here, and I'm going to click open. And it's going to download really technically it's uploading your photo into Scratch. So here it is, and all I've got to do is, of course, change the size. And now I have an added sprite. Now you're going to check right here on the name. My name is changed and it says Alien because when I downloaded it, I automatically changed the name at that point. If you didn't and it says remove background, preview, photo, a bunch of numbers, you're going to want to click on this and change that. So that is how you get a photo that you've removed the background from into your Scratch project. All right, so now we're going to start our game. We're going to create our game. We are going to have a start page, and then we're going to have an instructions page. We're not going to do that typing on our backdrops. We're going to do that as a sprite because we need those to code on. I'm not going to type all of the information. I can do that later, but to do the coding, we've got to have the sprite created. So I'm going to come down here where I choose a sprite, and I'm going to paint a sprite. Okay? So I hover over choose a sprite, and I click on the little paintbrush. It automatically goes to this screen. It'll say costume 1. The sprite just says sprite 1. That's it. This is going to be our start page. This is going to be the page that we might have it say click the green flag. it's going to start or it's going to say start. Just for the coding purposes, we're not going to worry about the details. We are going to name the sprite start page. We're going to be very specific on what we name stuff because we're going to have a start page, an instruction page. At some point, we might have a you lose page, not just the background. And then we'll have the backgrounds. On the costume one, I'm going to call it start. And all I'm going to do right now is type the word start on the costume and do a circle or a square, whichever one you want to do. And I'm going to come back and I'll be able to change this. So I'm clicking on the T for text. I'm actually going to write click here to start so that it'll help you not forget. It doesn't even matter where it falls on you, okay? Now I'm going to also create a button. For fun, I haven't done a square in any of my classes. I can do a square. And I'm not going to worry about the color and things like that because I know I'm going to come back in and I'm going to edit all of that at some point. All right? But I'm going to go back to code. I need that page because when we click the green flag, we have to tell all of our sprites to hide. The only sprite that's supposed to show is the start page. All right. Now I'm going to need another sprite to create in just a moment, but I want to go ahead and get all of the little basic part of the coding done right now. So I'm going to go through each one of my sprites, and I'm going to, when the green flag is clicked, I've got to tell it to hide. I'm just going to click on one sprite at a time, bring over the hide block in the green flag. I can see where I'm at by looking at that up there because I don't want any of that to show at the very beginning. My rocket ship, I plan to do something special with that, so I'm not going to do that, and I'm going to show you. It's just a special effect that I want to create on my project. This is my little dog. Because what I'm going to do with the rocket is to give you an example of something you can do. Now, any sprite that you add to this game while you're working, you have to remember to do this because they're not supposed to show when you start. This is like what it is at the beginning of any video game you play. They typically give you a title page. They might give you a background page. Then there's some games where you're choosing your avatar and all that stuff. We don't need to choose our avatar because we're not going to have them do that. Now, I've done that with all my sprites. This is my start page sprite. Now this one's a little different. I want it to show when I click the green flag. This is what I want them to see as soon as they click the green flag. I'm going to test it. All right? To know that it worked, when I click the green flag, everybody should vanish except for the click here. Oh, and of course my rocket, because my rocket's going to do some, I'm going to use it to make some effects before they play the game. So you are going to check your program. When you click the green flag, did everything else hide? And did you see your start page? All right, for my students who choose to have a start button right here, I am going to show you what to do. I'm going to actually hide this and separate it for this purpose. So if I have a sprite here with the button and I've named it start button, that's fine. What I'm going to do is the same thing I just did with the one I painted. I'm going to come to costumes. Here's my button. I'm going to go ahead and make it a little smaller. Now, it looks like this. If you want to leave it, you can. I am going to change the size a little because it's pretty ginormous. And then I'm going to have to determine exactly where I want it. But I need to first make this smaller. I want to see this whole area so I know what I'm doing. I'm going to click on the letter T. I'm going to go ahead and change the color. And I'm going to type here, click the button to start. All right. And I will probably end up moving it but I think with this purpose, I might have this guy flying back and forth, which would be okay. All right. So if you have a sprite that you want to be your button instead of drawing your own button, you're going to have this sprite. You won't have a start page. I would delete that. We're going to do that. So the same thing with the code. When I click the green flag, you have to show. All right. Now you could do little things like you could think about stuff like color effect, sound effects, those kind of things. But we're going to wait on that. All right. We're going to check real quick. Is everybody good to this point? We got one head shake, yes. All right. I'm going to pause it and make sure my class is caught up. All right. So I am going to show you this by using a start button. It can say start button or it can say start page. I'm going to put that in here for anyone that might have the word page. Either way, I'm deleting this other one because I don't need it. I only want to need one right now. So I click the green flag, it starts. I think I would like to add an effect to this. Don't you think it'd be kind of fun if we make the colors bounce a little? So that's a color effect. This change color effect makes it bounce. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in a forever block. And I can connect it right here. So when I click that, and that's pretty fast. If it's blinking too fast or you're afraid you're going to make somebody dizzy or they're going to pass out, remember to throw in the little wait block and then work on how much time you want to wait. How fast do you want it to go, how slow, that kind of thing. And it's kind of different. I'll worry about lining these up a little bit better. I kind of like that. But my background feels kind of bright, so I think in just a moment I'm going to go to the stage and I'm going to give this like a nice soft background. I might come back later and even make this a little bit bigger because it is kind of small. I have one at home. All right. I'm going to put a note up here with my comments. And I'm going to say add music. I don't want to take the time to go through all the music right now, which is fine. But remember, when we add music, music is always in a forever block with the green flag. It has to be separate in a forever block because you can't add another forever block here. See, it doesn't work. All right. I can have that like that right now. And I can even put the sound block right here to remind me. Because it takes a while to listen to all that music that's in Scratch or even find something else. All right. I want them to click this, correct? So I am going to bring over an event block that says when this sprite is clicked, what do I want it to do? Well, for number one, I want it to hide. I don't need it to show anymore. And I want it to broadcast a message to tell our other sprites it's time for them to show. Okay? So when the sprite's clicked, I want this to disappear. Now, if you want to do something like make it spin and then hide for an effect, think about that. If you do that, how many times did you have it spin? And we'll talk about little things like that on another video. So I'm going to go to looks. I'm going to hide. And remember, I need it to broadcast a message. We're going to be broadcasting a lot of messages. So we're going to be very specific on what our message says so we don't get any confusion. This one is going to say start instructions because we're going to have to give our viewer the instructions on how to play. And it's not going to be, we're not going to worry about all those details right at this moment. We want to get the basic coding down and come back and tweak those little things. So on my broadcast message block that came just above controls and at the end of events, because it is an event. I click on message, I click on new message, and I'm going to say start instructions. All right? Because that's what it's going to be. If I was going to do a pause screen between games or between levels with instructions, I would be real specific and say level 1, end of level 1 pause. Because you got to remember what you're doing. And then I just click OK. Well, what do I want to have happen? Number one, if I have music coded here, because if you look at this, see how these all light up? That means it's reading it. We want to tell that to stop. So this particular sprite, even though we're sending the message, it has to receive the message also. And I'm going to tell it to stop everything, which is at the bottom of control. Stop the other scripts. Because since I'm going to have beginning music, it's not my entire game music, because I'm really thinking I'm going to use sound effects. I don't want music through the whole game. I'm going to tell it to stop other scripts. So you see how when I click, when this part is clicked, it hid. And all of these that were lit up yellow, they're not being read anymore. When you have a multi-level game, it's very important to tell each level to stop running. Otherwise, it interferes with your other levels and they won't run. I'm going to pause my video here so my students currently can catch up and anyone watching can catch up. The next thing we're going to do, we've got this working. I click the green flag. I see the click this button. I'm going to make a note. The sizing is bothering me, but I don't want to play with it right now. I'm going to make a note, change the size later. Because I want to make this to where I'm happy, but I don't want to spend a bunch of time on it right now when I need to work on the whole project. So having these little comments boxes inside your code on different sprites to help you remember where you left off, what you want to do. If you're, let's say Oliver and I are a coding team. I live in Texas, he lives in Alaska, and we're going to work on a project. You're going to want to leave notes like this so the other person, when they take over whatever coding project you're working on, they know what they need to do and what you've done. I have a friend, Dr. Carrie Ann Hobbs. She is an aerospace engineer, which is aka a rocket scientist that works for the Air Force. She's stationed in Colorado. Some of her coding partners are stationed in other states, and this is what they do. They work in a program called GitHub. It's a platform for coding with other people, and they leave each other notes. So when that person's working on whatever job they're working on, they know what they need to do, what needs to be done. They can leave notes like, Oliver, I'm having trouble with this code. Can you look at it and figure out what the bug could be? Things like that. So it's really good practice to get into. It's like a sticky note on the inside the computer program. Okay? All right. So we got this working. I click, it goes away. All this program stops. Well, Ms. Gunn, what do I want to show when I click on that sprite? I am so glad you asked. I am going to want my two main characters to show. So that's going to be Ripley is one of them. So I'm going to tell her, let's see, when I get the start instructions, I want to show. In just a moment, I'm going to decide where I want her to be, and I'm going to give her a very specific XY location to go to. I also want Dot the dog, my space dog. I want him to show when that message start instructions come out, and I'm going to give him a very specific location. All right, I'm going to click the start button or the green flag, click the start button, there they are. It's not exactly where I want them, So I'm going to move that. So I'm going to put her about right here. I might come back and change this. This was a discussion from another class. Where do you want to put your players for them to choose from? How does it look in other video games? Are they right in the center? Are they side by side? Are they one on top of the other one? It's up to you. Are they both at the bottom? My previous game, I had them side by side like this. So this is giving me specific XY locations. For Ripley, it's the 192 by 15. So go to motion, and I bring over that XY. And I want her to go there. For Dot, his is a little bit different, but I like the way it looks like he's kind of centered with her. And I'm going to put his right there. That doesn't mean that's where they're going to be when when we actually play them in the game. Okay? Does that make sense? So I want that. Now, what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to program this little guy in a moment. I'm going to hide him for now because he's kind of getting in the way. Just like we had the start button, and that was the start instructions. I'm going to need to create a sprite that's how to play instructions. But right now, I'm going to do it like the other. I'm not going to put a lot of information. But I've got to come over here to paint a sprite, and I'm going to call it play instructions. Oops. And I'm just going to type in here how to click a character. And it's only because I'm going to come back to this later for specific details. I'm going to go ahead and kind of plan. I'm moving it over. It's not centered here right in the middle, but it looks good right here. I can even test it like this to see how it lays out. I'm going to put my information on that later. But I want the costume to say that. I want the sprite to say play instructions. This is going to tell them that they need to pick one of these two characters that will choose the game they play. So when you're looking at, what's one of your video games where you have to, Minecraft. Minecraft lets you choose Steve or, I just forgot her name, Alex. So they have them both up there, right? You have to click one. That's the concept we're doing. You have the two characters to choose from. You're going to click on the character that you want to play. When you click on that character, it's going to go to the position it needs to be in to start, and the other one's going to hide and shut down all of that code. Now that will be on my next video, so this one will be just the link that it is, having all your sprites lined up, how to make them all hide, how to get to this point. So, you know what? Right here, look at this before I hang up. Well, that's funny. Before I stop playing, it says how to play click character. Remember, I said earlier that Miss Dunn forgot. I've got to come in here and tell it to hide when the green flag is clicked. Little test like that. And I'm going to have it show, just like I did with Ripley and Dot, when I receive that one message, the start instruction message. Even though this is player instructions, the start instructions tells the play instructions to show. And I'm not going to worry about an XY until I get everything typed in it. So I'm going to test it all together. Click button, how to play, click a character. But you can't click it. All right, that's where we're going to stop right now. I'm going to click Save Now. I should have been doing that while I was working. But this will be, I'm going to call this Lesson 1.